Welcome everybody to the end of 2018. Congratulations on such a successful year. For this month's Realtor Real Talk, we're all going to share Christmas stories from the Montana Association of Realtors.
I'm Mark Simonich. I'm your executive officer here with the Montana Association of Realtors. Christmas time and holidays in general are a great time for family traditions, and my family, like many of yours, had traditions of their own. You don't know it, but I grew up in a fairly large family. I've got 5 brothers and extended family with lots of cousins. And when we were growing up as kids, one of our favorite times, of course, was Christmas Eve. We had an uncle that lived just down the street from us, and he and his wife didn't have children, so they put on a Christmas party for all the other kids in the family. Every year on Christmas Eve, we'd all gather down at Uncle Jack's house. He had a fireplace. None of us did. That was really cool to go to a house where there was a fireplace and have a fire burning and all that kind of stuff, and lots of good food and everything. And lo and behold, every year there'd be a knock on the door and Santa Claus would appear. And Santa Claus would come in, and everybody in the house, children, grown-ups, all got their name called and got a chance to sit on Santa's lap and get a present. He had a present in the bag for every single individual. And these weren't just kind of general run-of-the-mill things. There were always presents very specific for every one of us. It was a very, very fun time for all of us. One time, you might imagine, it's bound to happen at some point in time, little kids were all hovered around the front window waiting, watching for Santa Claus, and of course he arrives and we're in the house and sitting on his lap, and there's another knock on the door, and lo and behold, a second Santa Claus shows up at the house. What? This can't be. There's only one little Santa Claus. What did the little kids think about this? But the real Santa Claus, of course, was very quick to point out that, oh, tonight's a very busy night. I've got my friends out helping me. This is just one of my assistants. That's okay. I've got this house covered. You can go to another house. We enjoyed that every year when we were kids, even into high school and college. When we started dating, we brought a girlfriend with us. There would be a package in Santa's bag for our girlfriend as well. Years later, when I was attending the funeral for my Uncle Jack, an elderly gentleman came up and approached my brothers and I, and he looked at us and he said, "Do you know who I am?" And in unison, we recognized his eyes, his eyebrows, his voice, and in unison we all said, "You're Santa Claus." So that's my holiday memory I wanted to share with you. I hope that this holiday brings you great cheer and joy. Merry Christmas to all of you and a blessed New Year.
So I didn't grow up rich. I grew up in southern Maine. My dad sold 2x4s and plywood. He was a traveling 2x4 plywood salesman for some lumber company. My mother was a teller at a bank. And so, nonetheless, it was always a little bit less abundant with the Santa Claus Christmas presents during Christmas as compared to my friends in the neighborhood. So, one Christmas, and it was around the same time, I was like 6 and my brother was 8. We used to stay up all night, and we lived in a very small apartment, so our bedroom was right off the living room where the Christmas tree was, and then we had a little kitchen, and my parents had a room, my grandmother lived with us. It was one of those deals. So we stayed up all night, and finally, like 6 o'clock in the morning, I'm like, "John, I gotta go out and see what Santa Claus left." Run out of the room, pretend I have to go to the bathroom, and I check out the tree. It's still a little bit dark in the house, and I see these huge bags sitting around the tree. And so all I could see is a silhouette of bags around the tree. Santa Claus has left bags of presents this year. So we finally get up, parents come in and say, "Come out and open presents and see what Santa left." And they weren't bags of presents, they were actually bean bags. They were just bean bags. They were bags full of styrofoam beans.
I'm Nicole Reby, the Communications Director at Montana Association of Realtors, and I've got a few Christmas memories from over the past few years. I can always remember the neighbors' annual Christmas Eve party. There was always cars lined up for blocks, it seemed like, just lining the streets in every direction. And every once in a while, I was lucky enough to get some of their clam chowder, and oh, was it good. And then there was the time when I was 3 and I freaked out because I saw Santa across the street. He, of course, was going to the Christmas Eve party, but here I am left at my house just totally freaking out, panicking to my parents that I've got to get to sleep, I've got to go to bed. If I don't get to sleep, Santa's not going to come to my house. And then there was the time as an adult about 6 years ago when there was no power on Christmas morning. Well, there was when I got up, but then as I'm getting ready to kind of get some breakfast going, thank goodness I hadn't started breakfast yet, the power goes out. Well, it turned out that there was a squirrel that had blown the transformer that provided power to my house here in Helena as well as 3 of the neighbors. And wouldn't you know it, the only lineman on call lived 50 miles away in Craig. So here he is, having to take time away from his family to come down and do this simple fix to whatever this squirrel had done to this transformer. And come to think of it, we never did have any more issues with a squirrel blowing that transformer after that. Huh. The one memory that really resonates with me is attending midnight mass at the Cathedral of St. Helena. I would have been about 9 the first time I attended, and even though I went to the cathedral all the time, the cathedral was transformed for Christmas. I mean, the marble columns were wrapped in red fabric, and the choir and their bells, and the trumpets, and the bishop, and even the Knights of Columbus in their full regalia and those funny hats. Everything was just transformed to a new level that was so amazing. I mean, it really turned Christmas into an experience. And that whole church became an experience. It wasn't just a church, it was an experience. And then at the end of Mass, walking out of the big church doors and hearing the deafening sound of the bells ringing in Christmas morning. It was just so amazing. And if I was lucky enough, every few years, it would be snowing when I left. And to me, that entire memory just resonates and solidifies and just totally makes it come to life for me about what the magic of this season really is. Merry Christmas.